What up, guys? Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here. Today we're going to be talking about Secret Empire number 8, the conclusion to Marvel's big summer event. Now, we've talked a little bit about the issues before, and I know everyone's really excited to jump into this last one. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look.
So of course we've got this thing they've been doing where you get a secondary cover, which really only makes sense on the variants, but I'm pointing it out because we're going to come back to it here in a bit. So then we get this page, which is reminding us of what happened in the last issue, with Steve showing up in his Captain Hydra Iron Man armor, powered by the Cosmic Cube. So then we go and we actually get the brief little summary of what's been going down and where we are. So finally, we move into the story here, and Steve tells them all that he understands what they're doing and that they think that they're right, but they're not. They're wrong. And then Old Man Logan shuts him down, basically saying that no one in this crowd's going to be listening to you. At which point, Carol Danvers here says, yeah, at this point, we're all just waiting for the word. To which Clint says, this is for Nat, you son of a bitch. Avengers, assemble. And we get this kind of pretty mediocre page of what should be a pretty big moment. But I think the reason it's not a bigger moment or set up as such is because pretty much it's pointless. Like, him in the armor powered by the Cosmic Cube is way too much for them to handle. And he basically just takes them all out. And then using this energy wave in this panel, which is very reminiscent of Iron Man Extremis, uses this energy wave to basically go through and start rewriting reality. So then over here, yeah, we see everything's being changed in the image of Hydra, kind of just rewriting all kinds of stuff. But then we see up here that somehow that it did not affect Sam. And he pulls out his little shard of the Cosmic Cube, which got barfed up by Barf, and presents it to Steve. And then basically gets on one knee, swears allegiance to Hydra, and hands over the shard of the Cosmic Cube. So Steve pops it into his suit and achieves godlike power, and then as soon as he has it, it is frickin' gone. At which time we see Ant-Man, Scott Lang grow back to normal size, and a Tesseract Cosmic Cube portal open up, and Bucky steps out. So then we go back a little bit further to see what the plan was. They were waiting on a rooftop, and whenever he went to insert the shard of the Cosmic Cube, Scott Lang shot himself as well as Bucky towards the opening in the armor, and then basically he flung Bucky inside. So then we cut back even further to a couple of days ago where the heroes are establishing their plan of what exactly is going to go down. So then we're back inside the Netherworld where old school Steve Rogers, or the memory of Steve Rogers, is kind of living in the psycho landscape of Kobik, the living cosmic cube entity, or the sentient cosmic cube entity. And she's afraid. She's afraid of what she's created, and she's sorry, and basically Steve's been trying to get her to fix it, and she says she can't do it because she's afraid, so he offers to help her. And then right about that time, Steve starts hearing someone calling his name, and it turns out to be Bucky. And this is actually a really nice moment of like Bucky reaching out and grabbing him. So then we get back over here, and Bucky's giving him the business, and he's like, yeah, it's not even me you really have to worry about. To which Kobik comes out and just basically starts putting things back the way they were, rewriting reality once again, and then bringing forth old school Captain America, which is pretty dope. But let's take a look at this real quick. So as I mentioned before, in the beginning of the book up here, you have this full page of Cap in his sort of pseudo Iron Man-esque armor, and then before that you even have a full page, which is just the same thing as the cover. Like, both of these things are given full page spreads. But when we finally get back Captain America, our Captain America, who's been gone for like a year or longer at this point, all he gets is 3/4 of a page. That's a problem. that shows a serious lack of regard for the moment that this is supposed to be an audience cheer moment, like in movie terms. This is like when the audience would like verbally loudly cheer in the crowd, but it's minimized to just this little piece. Like really, this should have been a splash page. Like Cap should have taken up almost this entire page with evil Cap right where he is, and then all the rest of this space filled in with all the heroes gathering around, because their main guy, Cap, he's back, you know? Like, this could have been... And, like, you know, he's in this little moment here, too, but really this should have been pushed over to the previous page and given us something big and epic for this. So then, like, basically they have a couple of words, and then they go into a fight, and we get a... You know, I've been saying since this whole thing started that this is what we should have got for Civil War II. And it seems like Nick Spencer or the artist, one or the other, feels the same way. Because not only do they have Cap in like an Iron Man-esque armor, they, before with the shot of Cap Hydra doing the Iron Man pose from Extremis, and then along with this, it really seems as if they're indicating the same thing. That like this really is a Civil War event. It's just not called as such, because they keep harkening back to it and putting like the new Cap in the same kind of position that Tony had been in through a lot of Civil War. So anyway, and I mean, the fight here is pretty... It's okay from time to time. Like, it's got some cool action. The narration that's over it, as always, is very, very well written. But as always, it's telling a much grander story than what we're actually seeing on the page. Like, there's a lot of tell me instead of show me going on. But basically through this, the people remembered what it was like to fight. So at this point, and they don't really go into this very much, but Steve, like old school Captain America Steve, is beating the crap out of Hydra Steve, Captain Hydra. Despite the fact that one of them has like Iron Man armor, and they don't really just go into why that is. I personally think that it's because old school Cap is a memory. Like, he's not a real representation of old school Cap. He is Kobik's memory of Cap. So everything is purified. He's stronger. He's more committed. Like, he's all the best aspects of Captain America, like, pumped up to 11. Which is a really interesting idea that they don't really play with at all. Maybe they will in that next issue, the mystery epilogue issue. But anyway, so at this point, like, Cap Hydra's getting his butt kicked, so he decides to go for Thor's hammer, which has also been changed through the Cosmic Cube to now be, like, a Hydra hammer. So he runs to it and grabs it, but right at that moment, that part of the altered reality reverts back, and it becomes Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, true once again, and he's unable to lift it. At which point, old school Captain America grabs a hold and says, "Here, let me try." Boom! And then we get this splash page that, I'm not even gonna lie, is pretty frickin' dope, where he just, like, hits him with the hammer and the armor is just disintegrating off of him. It's really, really awesome. And in theory, maybe this should be another audience cheer moment. And I'm not even going to argue with this splash page. It's just, again, there's a lot, like, the fight was not, the lead up to this wasn't really something that would suggest, like, you're getting to the big, most epic moment. And it feels like the return of Cap is actually equally as important, if not more important, than him defeating Hydra Cap. And that's not the way it's treated. So anyway, he defeats him, and then he turns to, you know, everybody to be like, "I'm sorry," and they're like, "Oh no, man, don't worry, that wasn't you. It's all good." And then Sam hands him a shield, and he's like, "This doesn't belong to me." And Cap's like, "Yeah, this doesn't belong to me either." And we don't actually get to see Jane Foster, like, go from being Cancer Lady back into Thor, but it happens. And then it says basically that the scars would still remain, but Kubik decided to put everything back the way that it was, and on top of that, some of the most special heroes among these were given a gift from Kobik in that of the Vanishing Point. So that is a frickin' problem, because that is the setup for Marvel Generations, which has been going on for about a month now. So, about a month into the event that's going on in tandem with this event, we find out that the climax of this event is the catalyst for the parallel event that's going on. And I guess that makes sense since, the vanishing point is a place existing outside of time or space. Basically, it's a place where nothing that happens there matters. But that is a real problem, and it also doesn't feel like it belongs in this story. It feels like a shoehorned thing in at the very end of it. Wow. And I still kind of have a sneaking suspicion that Marvel Generations only exists for two reasons. One, to bolster this group of new heroes that they've been trying to push on us, as well as interfere with DC's first big event of DC Rebirth, being the Dark Knights that's happening. It feels like Edge of Venomverse as well as Generations exists more than anything to do that. So yeah, good job, Marvel. Good job. And speaking of good job, so this splash page looks okay. It looks pretty cool at first until you really start paying attention to it, and you begin to see little things like Iron Fist has herpes, and Odin's son, since he's not Thor anymore apparently, Odin's son looks more like Old Man Logan. And then with Jane Foster Thor here, what the hell is going on with that arm? And it's not the forced perspective, but look at the difference in link. Like, that would be, like, connected to her frickin' rib cage or something. That's just awful. And it's supposed to be like their triumphant moment, Earth's mightiest heroes looking crappy in front of a generic, blown-out background. So then, despite the fact that there's a whole book that's going to be the epilogue, we get the epilogue where I believe this is Barf again, who we see him getting out, and they're like, yeah, tell us if you were mistreated, or you can just sign this and go. If you don't want to, we can have a lawyer look it over, but it'll take more time. And his little brother, who's drawn like a little girl, that doesn't look like a young boy, it looks like a girl. But anyway, younger people could be really hard to draw, so I'm probably being a little too harsh on that. But anyway, he takes him home, and they both pass out. And then the next day, the neighborhood that had been against him before is helping, like, fix up his house and stuff. And we see basically that, what the narration says here is that, let's see. Because in the end, we fought back. In the end, we overcame. We lost so much, but we never lost hope. And we see him playing with the Sam Wilson Captain America. And then here we get the, the advert for Secret Empire Omega, the epilogue to the epilogue, I suppose. And maybe in that we'll finally find out who Caramel is. I just don't know. There's so many questions. So much could happen.
Right on, guys. That was Secret Empire number 10. The conclusion to Nick Spencer's magnum Marvel opus, and it was fine. It was fine. There was a lot of really cool stuff that came out of this issue. There's also a lot of just poor art, rushed writing, allusions to better stories than we're actually getting. And in all honesty, that's my feeling of the overall event of Secret Empire, is lots of cool stuff, but also a lot of just kind of cash grabby, put out as many titles as we can, just bring in all the dough from this, like milk every last drop out of it that we can, and before we just move on. And in a lot of ways, it feels much more like a Civil War II, like I said before. Like, this feels like what we should have got for Civil War II. And, but yeah, again, like, at the end of it, like, Marvel kept, like, posing that this book was going, and they did this with everything, but they kept saying, like, oh, after this book, nothing will ever be the same. It's going to change everything in the world of Marvel. It doesn't change shit. Like, at this point, Cap, like, I'm sure that in the next book, the Omega or whatever, they're going to deal with tying up some loose ends about how people feel about Cap after all this. But, like, in the one panel we got of it, everyone seemingly forgave him and, like, just kind of moved on. They're like, oh, no, that wasn't you. So, like, at this point, like, he's no worse off than, like, Tony Stark after the first Civil War, or, like, really there are very few, like really the biggest ramification of this is that Natasha is still dead. Like that's something that Kobik could not fix. Wow. So overall, like, Secret Empire, it had some good stuff. It had a lot of just garbage. That's my thought on it. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments. If you think I'm right, if you think I'm full of crap, I'd love to hear from you. Give this video a like and share it with your friends, and I really appreciate y'all giving me some time, especially since this is the second version of this video. I apologize if I seem a little wiped out or whatnot. While recording the first version of the video and putting it up, something happened and ruined my sound quality, so I just had to go back and start from scratch. So I really appreciate y'all sticking in there with me and giving this a view. Nerd Scum out.